Georgia O'Connor here. Big up Julius. Ring IQ. Welcome to the relay.
Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Golden Boy Promotions posted this to their social media, and it reads, Con todo, Arely. Mexico's own Arely Mussinio, former champion Arely Mussinio, will meet the IBF female world champion of Argentina, Leonela Paula Yudica.
In a 10-round scrap on the undercard of Diaz versus Zapata in October 29th.
This fight was rumored to be going down for some time, and it's finally here, set to go down later on this month.
Leonela Paula Yudica, she's one of 3 world champions in the flyweight division.
There is her countrywoman holding the WBO title, newly crowned Gabriela Alanis.
Unified Ring Magazine and lineal champion Marlen Esparza.
And Arely Mussinio, potentially, if she can pry the blue belt away from Leonela Paula Yudica. Arely, who sports a professional record of 31 wins, 3 losses with 2 draws, 11 knockouts, having been knocked out at least once.
At least once, many years ago at the hands of America's own Ava Knight.
To Leonela Paula Yudica, the reigning champion who sports a professional record of 18 wins, no losses, 3 draws with just 1 knockout.
Both fighters have seen action in the last 12 months.
The reigning champion, Leonela Paula Yudica, she was in action last month on the 17th against a journeywoman-level opponent in Lucia Ruiz.
Scored a 3rd-round TKO stoppage in that fight. Very quick turnaround for the reigning champion.
Having had a fight last month, already set to return to action this month, you get the sense that she knew she'd be sharing the ring with Arely, and she just wanted to get out there, shake off the ring rust, shake off the cobwebs, get 1 or 2 rounds in the bank. Arely last saw action earlier this year, in February.
Arely Muciño fought 2 times last year, set to fight again 2 times this year. This will be her 2nd fight this year.
Both fighters are very experienced fighters, both of them. But I will say that Arely Muciño's quality of competition comparatively is a lot better than Leonela Paula Yudica. You know, Arely's been in there with Barbie Juarez and Ava Knight, Tenkai Tsunami, Jackie Calvo.
Montserrat Alarcón.
She's won some fights. She's lost some fights, though overall, she has shared the ring with better fighters than the fighters that Leonela Paula Yudica has been fighting. Leonela, who's been a champion for a long time, but that's largely in part due to a sparse schedule of activity.
And opportunistic matchmaking.
There's something to be said about that as well. When you're regularly fighting better fighters than someone else is fighting, a loss is always around the corner. And over the years, Arely has not only been a more active fighter than Leonela Paula Yudica, but she's also faced better fighters comparatively than Leonela has.
So she's not an unbeaten fighter like Leonela is.
Leonela, who's 34 years old, to Arely Muciño, who's 33, not much between them there.
One of these fighters is a lot more offensively minded than the other, and that fighter is Arely Muciño, nicknamed La Ametralladora,
the Machine Gun. And you don't get a nickname like the Machine Gun being a safety-first, defensively minded kind of fighter. No. Arely got that nickname for being a characteristic mid-range to inside pressure fighter that throws punches in bunches. She's a volume puncher.
At her best, that's what she is, or that's what she's been.
The Arely Muciño that shared the ring with Yarineth Altuve in 2019. If that were the Arely Muciño that stands before us here today, I'd have her as the clear favorite over Leonela Paula Yudica. But over the years, it seems like Arely may have lost a step, perhaps slowed down. I don't know.
She just doesn't seem as sharp or dangerous as she used to be.
I feel like here today, this is a closer fight than it would have been back in, 2018, 2019.
I am still leaning towards Arely Muciño to win the fight.
For more reasons than one. She is the more offensively minded fighter of the two, and she's the house fighter. This being a Golden Boy Promotions show, she's a Golden Boy Promotions fighter. So if they're close and tight rounds, the judges might give Arely consideration. They may give her the benefit of the doubt, her being the house fighter.
The idea here is to have the winner move on from this and do a unification match with Marlen Esparza.
I'm certainly not against it. This division needs a face, and that face will be the face of the last woman standing, whether it's Marlen Esparza or someone else. There are 3 active reigning champions in this division, and it sorely needs consolidation because it has stood divided for many years now.
It's one of the benefits of having a big-time promotional outfit with a platform deal deal or a broadcast deal.
That's the benefit of having a big-time outfit with a pony in this division, a pony in that flyweight show. They can inject money and bring attention to it by promoting their fighter.
That's what Golden Boy Promotions is doing.
With Marlena Esparza, with Arely Muciño, and we'll get into a full fight breakdown as the fight date approaches, though preliminary thoughts, I am leaning towards the former champion.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Arely Muciño in this thing. I think she might be able to pry the blue belt away from Yudica.
So here I am, finally getting great news about possibly fighting. I've agreed, Daniel wants to fight, fighting for a WBA world title again. At the last couple of fights in my career, finally get a chance again to fight for the WBA regular world title. And all I hear now is that the British Boxing Board of Control won't sanction the fight because I'm too old. So regardless of the fact that I started boxing at 32, was a world champ at 36 with no amateur experience, have come off 2 great knockout wins of one of the better fighters in Australia and an up-and-coming fighter in Junior Far, knockout in round 1. I'm currently holding an IBF and a WBA regional title and a top 15 world ranking with the WBA. I'm apparently too old. So you finally get the greatest news ever that you can fight for a world title, and some board somewhere says, oh no, he's 43, he's too old, we're not going to sanction it. How sad is that? Like, wow, it's not like I've been beat around the head all my career. I've got 3 losses in total. You know, like, how does this work? How exactly does this work where a body of people who are obviously too old to fight themselves just go, oh no, he's too old, we're not going to worry about it? I'm coming off 2 great knockout wins with 2 belts and a world rating. How am I too old? If I'm too old, I wouldn't have any of that. If I'm coming off losses, totally understand. How in any way whatsoever is that right? And how can that be allowed to stand? I don't understand. So again, the guy from Australia gets fucked over again. And that's the problem with boxing. It's money and politics. If you don't have the money and the politics to back it up, you get fucked over. And that's been my entire career, unfortunately. My entire career, I have been fucked over by everyone in boxing. Every country, no matter what it is, you know, there's always been something, always will be something, and it really leaves a bad taste in my mouth about boxing. I'd never want my kids to ever go into boxing because I think it's fucked from start to finish. From amateurs and into professionals, just with the money and the politics bullshit. Why don't you just let people fight and be done with it? So that's my 2 cents for today. I'm fucking pissed off.
I don't necessarily know that it was Lucas Browne's age that the BBBOC really had in mind when they made this ruling, when they made this decision. Is 43 years old. 43, is that the cutoff for a boxer in the United Kingdom? Are boxers that age? Are they simply not allowed to fight? Because Lucas Browne does raise a very valid point. He is coming off of
2 consecutive knockout victories.
You know what I think this is? I think this is just the BBBOC wanting to show that they have some teeth. Given everything that's going on in the United Kingdom, this whole Conor Benn thing.
I think they just wanted to flex some muscle, to be honest.
Was it really just Lucas's age that influenced their decision? Is that all it was? That he's 43 years old and they don't think a 43-year-old should be in there with Daniel Dubois? Is it really as simple as that?
I don't know. If it were Luis Ortiz instead of Lucas Browne, would they have still made that decision?
I think that's a legitimate question. If it were Luis Ortiz instead of Lucas Browne, Luis Ortiz who's coming off a points decision loss to Andy Ruiz, if it were Luis that were trying to fight Daniel next, is the BBBOC saying that they would not sanction such a fight? Because a lot of people would look at that as a decent fight. Luis Ortiz
He's older than Lucas Browne.
with the same number of professional losses, 3 professional losses, 2 to Wilder and 1 more recently to Andy Ruiz.
Well, in any event, Lucas ain't getting the fight. He's not going to get that shot at Daniel's version
of the WBA heavyweight title. And if we're going to address what Lucas Browne is saying here, he does raise some valid points, he does. But with this fight's collapse, Daniel has to find someone better to fight. And ideally, he would find them in the WBA's own ranked standings. Michael Hunter is ranked at number 1 by way of the WBA. Why not fight that guy? His fight with Hughie Fury, it just fell through. It collapsed because Hughie Fury's got long COVID. Michael Hunter ain't got a dance partner. He's ranked at number 1 by way of the WBA, so why not fight that guy?
Perhaps he's too much of a high risk, low reward for Daniel, perhaps?
To Daniel's handlers, to Frank Warren, Old Fish Eyes, and Daniel's team, they might look at Michael Hunter as a high risk, low reward guy, even if he makes sense to the consumer, guys like me and you.
What might be right for one might not be right for some.
You can cross out number 2 ranked Robert Helenius and number 3 ranked Hughie Fury.
Robert's busy and Hughie's sick.
Robert's busy with Wilder. Hughie's got long COVID.
Number 4 ranked Martin Bacoli.
That'd be an excellent fucking fight, but like the Michael Hunter fight, it's a high-risk, low-reward fight.
You guys saw what he did to Tony Yoka in Tony Yoka's own backyard.
It's a high-risk, low-reward fight for Daniel Dubois. As stated, it might make sense to us, the consumers, the spectators in this spectator sport, but to Daniel's team and his promoter, Frank Warren, it might not make any sense at all to put him in a fight like that.
Same applies to Arslanbek Makhmudov, unbeaten guy.
Russian guy based out of Canada. We just saw him not that long ago against the very experienced Carlos Decam. I wouldn't mind Makhmudov versus Dubois, but
that's not the kind of fight they're trying to make. That's why they got in contact with Lucas Browne in the first place.
You don't get in contact with a 43-year-old Lucas Browne because the matchmaking is all that ambitious. Quite the opposite. Lucas Browne would be a safe choice for Daniel Dubois, and you get the sense that that's the kind of fight they're trying to make. A safe fight, a maintenance fight, a keep busy fight.
I heard something about number 13 ranked Kevin Lerena being offered the fight. The funny thing about that is Kevin Lerena is ranked behind Lucas Browne.
In the WBA's ranked standings, Lucas comes in at number 11, whereas Kevin Lerena comes in at number 13, behind Lucas Browne and unbeaten Agit Kabayel. Maybe they can call Agit Kabayel. He's an unbeaten guy.
Kevin Lerena says he was offered the fight.
Kevin Lerena, who's about 13 years younger than Lucas Browne, sporting a professional record of 28 wins with 1 loss, no draws,
14 knockouts,
17 fight winning streak. Guy hasn't lost a fight in years, and he's only ever lost 1 fight, so perhaps he's a little better than Lucas Browne, though he is ranked behind Lucas Browne in the WBA's ranked standings, so there is that to be addressed.
I don't know, let's wait and see who Daniel ends up fighting.
And just in keeping with the theme of fights that aren't going to happen, I'm sure you've heard the news by now, after discussions with various parties, we have taken the decision to formally postpone the bout between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. It is undeniable that the British Boxing Board of Control's decision to withdraw their sanctioning was procedurally flawed and without due process. That remains a legal issue between the promoters and the board, which we intend to pursue. However, whilst there are legal routes to facilitate the fight taking place as planned, we do not believe that it is in the fighters' interests for those to be pursued at such a late stage, or in the wider interests of the sport. As promoters, we take our obligations and duties very seriously, and a full investigation will now need to take place. We will be making no further comment at this time, and news for ticket holder refunds will follow.
There's no one to blame here for this but Conor Benn.
Conor Benn, who's going to be taking all the heat for this. He's already coming under scrutiny for his previous bouts, his previous fights, with fighters like Chris Van Heerden, fighters like Chris Algieri, who now find themselves asking
others and themselves, did he beat me fairly?
He's on the gear ahead of this Chris Eubank Jr. fight. Was he on the gear when we fought? When he fought me?
Probably was.
Those of you that have been following this channel for some time will know that I'm not taken by the lofty explanations fighters tend to give in these scenarios, in these situations. I didn't buy into Oscar Valdez's T excuse any more than I buy into whatever Conor Benn has to say about this. In this fiasco, there are already rumors and rumblings that he failed more than one test on more than one occasion, on more than one day.
He's got to take his lumps, the same way Canelo took his lumps, the same way Oscar Valdez took his lumps, Jarrell Miller, John Pascal.
He's got to take his lumps. And the worst of it is here and now, when people are most aggravated by this situation because they wanted to see this fight. They did want...
Eddie Hearn has come under scrutiny for trying to move forward with the show, for not canceling the show straight away.
But ask yourself a question. The people that were criticizing Eddie for trying to move forward with the show, had the show moved forward, what?
What?
You think they weren't going to watch it?
Eh?
What, you think they were going to boycott it?
Eh? Eddie Hearn's biggest critics right now weren't going to do anything but fork over their money to watch this fight.
And that's the truth. It's not banned substances they have a problem with. It's not even Conor Benn. It's Eddie Hearn. Because there are a lot of people that underneath it all, for them, this is really just a Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn thing, which is really just a Tyson Fury thing.
You think it's a coincidence that Eddie's biggest critics, many of his biggest critics, are big Tyson Fury fans?
For them, that's what this is really about, which is even more bizarre because Tyson Fury tested positive for a banned substance. I can't stress that enough.
I bring it up as much as I can because therein lies the truth. Therein lies the cold, hard, ugly truth.
It's not safety these people care about. A cleaner sport.
It's not.
Performance-enhancing drugs. These aren't real hang-ups for these people because look at who they support.
If you really cared about a cleaner sport, if
performance-enhancing drugs were really an issue to you as a spectator in the spectator sport, you wouldn't be supporting that guy.
you're just a fucking hypocrite. What you're accusing Eddie Hearn of being, that's what you are.
Eddie Hearn, who's taking a lot of heat for attempting to do what Bob Arum already did with the Valdez and Conceição situation, where Oscar Valdez tested positive for a banned substance ahead of the fight, but Bob did what he had to do to ensure that the fight still took place, that the show went on. That show, compared to this show...
That was a smaller show with less of a profile. This, comparatively, was a bigger show. Would have been, I should say.
It just is what it is. It's an ugly situation. It's bad all around. Bad for everybody, but especially bad for Conor Benn, who, moving forward...
He's got to take his lumps, and he's going to be taking his lumps for a while before people...
He'll receive the most criticism for this, here and now, while the wound is still fresh. But it's not the end of the world. Believe you me, it's not the end of the world. It wasn't the end of the world for Oscar Valdez. Wasn't the end of the world for Canelo Alvarez.
Wasn't the end of the world for Tyson Fury, and it won't be the end of the world for Conor Benn. For now...
Right now, while the wound is still fresh. That's when the criticisms and all of that will be at its worst. Over time, it will dissipate. It sounds a lot like Matchroom may pursue legal action against the BBBOC.
They said they're going to pursue it. Maybe they'll change their mind in a couple of days.
After everybody calms down. They're pissed off right now. They wanted to do this show. They had a lot riding on it. And as you can imagine, it's an inconvenience for everyone.
Maybe in a few days they'll calm down. They'll say, it's more trouble than it's worth taking these people to court.
Maybe. And the damage is done after all. There's nothing that can really be done about that.
Public perception.
But that's the gist of it. The news is out, and it's all bad.
The fight has been officially called off.